I don't know what it is about Invincible, but there's something about the series that I can't stop thinking about lately, specifically the character of Nolan Grayson, aka Omni-Man. Each time I watch an episode of this show, I find myself drawn deeper to his character. When exploring his actions, his motivations, his conflicts, the more I realize how complex of a character he truly is. When you look at the depth of Omni-Man's arc, it's hard to deny his complexity. When I label Omni-Man as one of the most intriguing characters in the series in a philosophical sense, I truly mean it. Many superhero stories have explored the concept of moral ambiguity, specifically when it comes to villains, and it is certainly something interesting. It helps us sympathize with the villain and look critically at who we define as our heroes. But Invincible does something very different and feels like a breath of fresh air in the superhero genre. So, this got me thinking, how can I look at Omni-Man in a different sense and truly understand why he acts the way he does? And in this video I want to explore that, which I will try to do through the lens of philosophical nihilism. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers about the show. Nolan's origins trace back to the aftermath of the Great Purge on Viltrum, a pivotal event that shaped his worldview. Raised in the belief that Viltrum stood as the preeminent empire in the galaxy, Nolan, like his fellow Viltrumites, was indoctrinated with the mission to enforce Viltrumite supremacy across the cosmos. His unwavering dedication to this cause led him to undertake the ruthless task of subjugating planets, including Earth, demonstrating his prowess as one of Viltrum's most formidable and trusted officers. Yes, the Viltrumites are social Darwinists. Central to Viltrumite ideology is a sense of superiority over other races and species, coupled with a strict adherence to genetic purity and strength. Emotionally detached and driven by efficiency, Viltrumites prioritize their mission above all else, even if that means resorting to extreme measures and bloodshed. Nolan's upbringing in this environment ingrained within him a commitment to Viltrumite principles. Despite once considering the Guardians of the Globe as friends, Nolan's allegiance to Viltrum ultimately eclipsed any personal attachments, highlighting the depth of his devotion to the Empire's expansion. His declaration, "I'm loyal to Viltrum," encapsulates the unwavering loyalty that defines him, showcasing his prioritization of duty over sentimentality. And as we all know, at the end of Season 1, Omni-Man betrays everyone on Earth, including the Guardians Mark and Debbie. For years he had dutifully followed the orders of the Viltrumite Empire, never questioning the morality of his actions or the consequences of his loyalty. This leads him to escaping Earth and leaves him in a full-blown crisis. So, what is the crisis Omni-Man goes through? You can define it as an existential crisis, but more specifically, it revolves around the concept of eternal recurrence, a philosophical idea presented by Friedrich Nietzsche. In his book The Gay Science, Nietzsche describes eternal recurrence as the notion that all events in the world repeat themselves in the same sequence through an eternal series of cycles. This concept is echoed in Omni-Man's journey. Omni-Man struggles with the idea of his own existence and purpose. As a Viltrumite, he is bound by the expectations and traditions of his people, who believe in the supremacy of their race and the conquest of other worlds, as I have already explained. However, as Omni-Man spends time on Earth and develops relationships with Debbie and Mark, he begins to question his role in the universe. Omni-Man finds himself trapped in a cycle of violence and domination. Despite his immense power, he feels powerless to break free from the expectations placed upon him by his heritage. His struggle mirrors Nietzsche's concept of the eternal recurrence, as he finds himself repeating the same actions and facing the same conflicts over and over again. The concept of a repeating cycle is very important here. A key part of Omni-Man's journey, if not the most pivotal, is the moment of solitude in space that we see in episode 4 of Season 2, which takes place right after the fight between Omni-Man and Invincible at the end of Season 1. Now, Nietzsche claims that this eternal recurrence happens at our loneliest loneliness. The term loneliest loneliness is also very important to keep in mind here, because it should not be confused with normal loneliness. For example, loneliness that you feel when you're alone in your house for the first time. Your loneliest loneliness, on the other hand, is something much more existential, and something that Omni-Man is feeling in this scene right here. It makes total sense too, considering he, in the moment, is literally drifting through the endless void of space, and nowhere is home. He has nobody and he has no home. He is seen as a traitor by the Viltrumites and as a murderous villain by the people of Earth. So, of course this is him at his loneliest loneliness. As soon as the idea of being alone goes from being a way of escaping to being a feeling of emptiness, that's when the eternal recurrence kicks in for Omni-Man. He realizes that despite his immense power and years of conquering other planets, he is ultimately alone, disconnected from both humanity and the Viltrumites. It's in this moment of introspection that Omni-Man begins to question his purpose and his place in the universe. Now, if we take a small step back from Nietzsche's philosophy, that last part is where Invincible takes this idea to a different direction. While Nietzsche delves into the dread of ultimate loneliness, Invincible raises a thought-provoking question: what occurs when one actively desires solitude, only to find oneself experiencing its opposite? Which then poses a totally different question: why does Omni-Man's time on Earth make him change that much? Which is asking what the significance of human affection and connection is, a recurring theme we see being explored in the show. We crave social relationships due to our fear of loneliness, and simultaneously our fear of loneliness arises from our innate need for social connections, which in itself is a cycle, in a sense. At the culmination of episode 4 of season 2, Omni-Man's cyclical nature is mirrored in his journey to the planet Traxa. Despite his brief moment of introspection and acceptance, during his drift in space, Omni-Man finds himself embarking on a familiar path once again. His desire for purpose and connection leads him to Traxa, where he assumes the role of a leader, seeking solace and fulfillment in the arms of a Traxan woman, ultimately fathering another child. Yet in this seemingly fresh start, echoes of his past resurface, underscoring the inherent repetition in his existence. Despite his efforts to forge a new life on Traxa, the underlying emptiness persists, highlighting the futility of his quest for meaning, which we can use to ask the question if it truly matters, if anything truly matters. This brings us back to the end of season 1, where Omni-Man asks Mark,
"What will you have after 500 years?"
Again highlighting the meaninglessness and futility that Omni-Man experiences in everything. I don't want to say that Invincible boldly claims that nothing matters through its narrative, as it's obvious that this is not the way Nolan feels, but the show does explore the theme in a Nietzschean sense. Of course, opinions about Nietzsche's thought experiment on the eternal recurrence differ, but one way to interpret it is that the undergoing of the eternal recurrence enables us to self-develop. Because if one were to accept the idea that their life will repeat infinitely, they would be compelled to live in a way that maximizes fulfillment and authenticity. Of course, there is much more to say about this show and Nietzsche's philosophy, but that might be content for a future video. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoy content like this, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like and share your thoughts in the comment section below. Also, check out the link in the description to learn how you can support us to create more content like this, and be sure to check out our other content if you haven't yet already. Take care, and we will see you in the next video.